Om Brahmanandam Paramasukadam Kevalam Jnanamurtim Dvandvaditam Gaganasadarsham Tattvamasyaadilakshyam Ekam Nityam Vimalamachalam Sarvadi Sakshibhutam Bhavatitam Trigularahitam Satgurum Tam Namah. So today, I'm sorry about the question and answer business. Politics can interfere with life. So, we will do the rest of the session on the Kathopanishad today. I know many of you wrote questions. I saw a lot of papers. You can email me if you have these questions, and you're sure to receive some kind of an answer, at least an answer that I don't know the answer. So, we will start from where we stopped yesterday. Before that, 5 minutes to sum up. You know the story of Nachiketas, who goes to see the Lord of Death, Yama, and asks him for 3 boons. What I would like to underline is the fact that Nachiketas was such a true seeker whose only interest was to find the truth, and therefore, when he asked the question, the third boon from the great Lord of Death, Yama, saying, "How can I be free of you? Yet, is there something called immortality? How can I be free?" Yama tried to tempt him in many ways, saying, "Just leave that question aside. I can give you everything you want. Wealth, untold wealth, immeasurable wealth, entertainment, elephants, horses, chariots. Ask and I shall give it to you. Don't ask me this question." And Nachiketas, to his credit, decides, if it is so valuable that Yama is trying to tempt me away by offering all these things, I just want to know that. So I don't want any. In fact, in the last sloka which we did yesterday, he says, "Keep your dance and music to yourself. Tell me the answer to this question." So then Yama, yesterday, day before, Yama starts by describing to him. Now, this is the importance of the Upanishad, as I said yesterday. Yama didn't say, "Okay, here is the formula, take it, and you will attain immortality." Yama says, "Find out." So, how do we find out? See, there's a way of life to be adopted before one goes into this understanding of the truth. Way of life, not just theory and knowledge which is stuffed into the brain. In fact, the less knowledge in the brain, the easier to understand, because there is space to understand. So, he starts by saying that in this life which we lead, in this world, we are usually faced with 2 things. One is that which is pleasant, and the other is that which is good. Because what is good may not always be pleasant, and what is pleasant may not always be good. May be also, but may not always. He says, a wise seeker who wants to find the truth chooses between these 2 and decides it's better to choose the good than to choose that which is pleasant. There's a catch here. When the person who is looking for the truth and only the truth decides to accept and follow the good rather than the pleasant, he knows that in the end he would reach the highest of joys which no pleasant things on earth can offer him. So in a way there is a vested interest a little bit, which is give up the trinkets so that you reach the real treasure. But that's human nature, we all want to find it. So then he also says, therefore, when you lead a life discriminating between the pleasant and the good, and trying to follow the good in preference to pleasure, and then understanding from someone who has understood this truth, trying to listen and trying to find out. Shravana is listening. Manana is thinking about what you listened in the mind. Nididhyasa is study. When all these three things go together, when you don't mind even if there are difficulties which are unpleasant on the way as obstacles, then one day you will arrive at the truth. Okay. And he says, but this truth which I am describing to you, it appears to be so abstract to you because it cannot be defined, it cannot be expressed in words, it cannot be caught in your hands, it cannot be found by the sense organs. So since it is but, so therefore is there no hope for the human being? Because the only possibility of finding something for us is through the sense organs and through the brain, mind. If this is yan manasana manyute, even beyond the mind, ordinary mind, I'm underlining ordinary mind. And if it cannot be seen by the eye, chakshusha na pashyati, then is there no way at all to find it? So what is the point? Then he says, no, in this physical world, there is a link that takes you to that which is unseen and unsaid and cannot be understood by a puny little idiotic brain. And that is a sound which the Vedas have declared, in which people who have gone into this understanding have found there is a sound that links you to that unknown, which is the essence of all the joy of this world, for which we actually are trying to find, because there is a built-in feeling in the mind, in the brain, that there is some joy which is undefinable, unending, anantamanandam Brahma. There is something. We try to look for that joy in the outside things. We think if I have 10 houses, I will be joyful. If I have a house in New York, or if I have a house in Bombay, and then if I run away, I think I'm safe. I'm happy. No. Some people think if you have more wives, you'll be happy. I don't have to explain this. So, what the Upanishad is trying to say is that no amount of external gathering. I'm not saying that you should throw everything away, wear a cowpin and walk around. That's not what I'm saying. To understand that what you gather from the outside world is not going to take you to that truth which is eternal joy. So, having understood this, Yama says to Nachiketas, there is a practical way also to touch that, and which is the sound, which is primeval sound, which is called Om. The Kathopanishad describes 2-3 slokas what Om is and how Om is a sound more than the meaning, and that sound is non-denominational. It so happens that it is written in an ancient language, but it's a sound. And using this sound, one can connect from the present state of mind towards that which is beyond the mind. So, yesterday I explained to you some of the meanings of Om from the Mandukya Upanishad, from other sources. The Mandukya says, we will start from there from today. Use the mind as the bow. Use the sound of Om as the arrow. Pull the string taut. Keep the target as the Brahman and let go. Now this let go is very important. The Ishavasya Upanishad says, Tena tyaktena bhunjita, let go and rejoice. We never let go. Are you in a hurry that I should open the book? Shall we explain and go through? It's important. Tena tyaktena bhunjita, let go and rejoice. Let go is different from give up. Please understand. Giving up is different from letting go. Let go means, is it possible for a human being? I think it's possible to live in this world, letting go of all the muck that we have gathered in the form of resentment, anger. If there's good things you can keep, that's okay. For instance, if somebody, Vrinda maybe, I don't know, if somebody has slapped me 20 years ago, I don't know her 20 years ago, she could. Somebody has slapped me. Now, the question is, how long does the slap actually last? How long? 1 hour? 2 hours? Well, if you lost your teeth, maybe for a few more days. After that, the actual act of slap is not there. It's gone. It's finished. You can't go back to the past because the past is not there now. We have only this present. But we cannot let go of it. I may carry it for 20 years till it becomes a festering wound in my head, maybe hoping that I'll give back a slap in the next chance available when nobody is watching. But it's there. So where is this slap there? Only in my head. It keeps continuously playing like a tape. Nowadays there are no tapes, whatever, CD or whatever. It keeps playing. And I can't let go of it. Can we open the window and throw this, I was about to add one more word, CD out and say I'm free of it, because actually that slap does not exist. Even the person who slapped might have been dead and gone, but it won't go from my head. Can I let go of these things every minute? And I go to sleep every day, can I say this is finished? Tomorrow morning I wake up to a new world. In fact, unfortunately I happen to know a husband and wife who haven't really looked at each other after a few months after the marriage. Images have been built. There is no communication. Now, you have an idea about M, right? There can be any idea. Either he's crazy or he's written an autobiography and all these things. So you have an idea about me. And if I know you, it's better I don't know you. I don't have an image about you. Suppose I know you. I have an image about you, right? And then, when we communicate between you and me, there is no communication between you. My image of yours and your image of me are communicating. There is no real communication. Can we let go and take things as they are right now, at this second? If you let go that way, the Upanishad says, Bhunjita, tena tyaktena bhunjita, let go and rejoice. So, in the Kathopanishad, Yama says to Nachiketas, can you lead a life looking for the true essence? Forget about all the images that you have gathered. And then in that quietness, just use Om as a chant. Even in the example of an arrow being shot from a bow, suppose I want to, the Zen teachings have a great deal to do with archery. The Kodanda. I have the bow, I have the arrow, I have the target. Okay, I want to touch the target, hit the target. What do? I keep the arrow in the string. The arrow is Om. Mind is the string. And then I fix my eyesight with the target and the tip of the arrow in one line. Then I pull the arrow, the bow, taut, the string. Okay, done. Now, is that all that is to be done? Will the arrow hit the target? When will it hit the target? When I release the thread. This is the subtle art of meditation. While you need to fix your attention, chant Om and fix your attention. After that, you let go, not pressurize. If you pressurize and if you are so tense then it will remain exactly where it is. It won't go. Take your hands off. You have nothing to do. Some people call it surrender. So, now we continue from where we left off. There is a complaint that because I read from the Upanishad, when I read, people can't hear what I am saying. And when okay. So I'm trying to avoid that as much as I can. For that, I probably may have to balance the spectacles on the tip of my nose. Luckily, it's long, so. Before this, Yama said to Nachiketas, such an uncomfortable, Nachiketas, when you chant this Om and understand the reality, then you discover that you who seek immortality are already immortal. It's the body that dies. The body dies, the mind dies, but your true identity, which is the inner self, was neither born nor is it going to die. When you realize this, there is no more fear of death, because death is for what? Also, when you live a life where you're not attached to the things you possess, there's no harm in possessing but not get attached to it, then death is a simple affair. You know why people are afraid of death generally? Not because of the unknown, but because you'll have to leave behind your favorite earrings, your favorite cars, your favorite friends. This is the fear. Suppose somebody guarantees when you die, you can take your friends, you can take your garlands, you can take. Who is afraid of death? Say, okay, very good. I'm glad. But you can't take it. This is the fear, that I'm going to lose. When you discover that there's nothing to lose, because what you really gain is your inner self, there is no fear of that. This is the question that Yama asks. Is there a state where I am free of death? He says, you are yourself free of death. You think you are Nachiketas, the son of Vajashravasa, therefore you have death. When you discover you are actually the essence of the inner self, you are free, you are immortal. Then you have reached what is called asato ma sadgamaya, tamaso ma jyotirgamaya, mrityor ma amritam gamaya, no death. Amrita is no mrityu. It's not the payasam, it's the milk. But it's given as prasad from the temple. Prasadam also, according to the Sanskrit dictionary, means anandam. Prasada. So then, the Upanishad, I have to sit like this now. Upanishad describes that inner self, which is the inner self of all beings, not isolated, not only for Nachiketas or for M. It's for everyone, it's common. And what is that self? The Upanishad says, Na jayate mriyate va vipaschin nayam kutaschin na babhuva kaschit ajo nityaha shashvatoyam purano na hanyate hanyamane sharire. I think if you know Malayalam, you know a little bit of Sanskrit. Remember Swami Chinmayananda telling somebody, Swamiji, I cannot understand any Sanskrit. Are you a Malayali? Yes. Nano illallo. 40% of Malayalam is Sanskrit. Anyway, we don't give attention, that's the reason. So, the meaning is, unfortunately I have to explain. The knowing self, Deepu, can you hear me? The knowing self is never born, the inner self, nor does he die at any time. It sprang from nothing and nothing springs from it. It's unborn, eternal, abiding and primeval. Na hanyate hanyamane sharire. He is not slain when the body is slain. Kegunnunda? Ivana enna complaint cheyidare. Then the next sloka. This is like trying to describe something which is indescribable, and therefore as much as possible to give a metaphor or a simile. That's what it is. Anoraniyan mahato mahiyan atmasya jantor nihito guhayam tam akrato pashyati vita chokho dhatu prasadan mahimanam atmanaha. Smaller than the small, greater than the great. Please, this is not Nachiketa's self, it is yourself and myself, inner self. The self is set in the heart of every creature. The unstriving man beholds him. Unstriving means one who has understood that he has to release the thread, the string before the arrow can go. That's the meaning of unstriving. And that requires a lot of striving to understand this. Therefore, the unstriving man beholds this inner self freed from all sorrow through tranquility of the mind and the indriyas, the senses. He sees the greatness of the self. Now, again, there are some descriptions which are to prove that the subject or the object which we are looking at is not an ordinary thing like a microphone or a bottle of water. It's something beyond the understanding of the ordinary brain. When the ordinary brain is completely silent, then perhaps there is a chance to understand what it is. As long as it's doing its acrobatics, it's not possible to understand it. So these are examples, these are descriptions given to show that it's not a material object. A material object can be here at one time. It cannot be there also at the same time. It can be either here or it can be there. So don't you think it's wonderful if we have in us an essence which can be here and there at the same time? Do we? We have to find out. So the Upanishad says, Asino duram rajati, shayano yati sarvata, kastam madamadam devam mad anyo jnatum arhati. Which means, sitting, he moves. I would rather say it moves, because the ladies may object, why he? Sitting, he moves far. Lying, he goes everywhere. Ananta sayanam. He's lying down, but he's everywhere. And Yama says to Nachiketas, who but me, the Lord of Death, is fit to make you understand this God who rejoices eternally. Then comes the sloka, Nayam Atma Pravachanena Labhyo, Na Medhaya Na Bahuna Shruthena, Yame Vaishya Vrunute Tena Labhyas Tasyasya Atma Vivrunute Tanum Swam. Which means this self cannot be attained by instruction. So this 1 hour is no use. Well, there is a use to say that it cannot be attained through instruction. That much is there. Nor by intellectual power. If you think I'm a very bright and brilliant scientist, therefore I must know the Atman, may not be. Maybe, but may not be. Not a qualification. We have seen simplest villages discovering it in a second. Simplicity and directness is more essential than learning. Yesterday we discussed this. The same Upanishad says those who think that they have gathered so much knowledge that they can understand the truth are like Andheireva niyamana yatandaha, the blind leading the blind. So don't mistake me, because I can read Sanskrit, that doesn't mean I know the Brahman, okay? May not. Maybe not. So, this self cannot be attained by instruction, nor by intellectual power, nor even through hearing. He is attained by those who one-pointedly choose to find him. To such a one, the self reveals his own nature. Now, is there a way of life to lead by which one can touch that practically? Otherwise, it's all in the philosophical realm. Yes, the Upanishad says, not he who has not desisted from evil ways, not he who is not tranquil, not he who has not a concentrated mind, not even he whose mind is not composed can reach this self, even though he may have knowledge of it. So, it's not just enough to have a theoretical understanding of it. We have to change our lifestyle to touch there. What is the change in lifestyle? To desist from evil ways, which means to desist from being such a totally selfish human being. Move out of this. Why? Because if that infinite self is in all of us, in a way we are on an equal footing. So think also of others, at least sometimes. Somebody said, I am doing my duties, I am looking after my children, so I am doing in the proper. I said, listen, Even monkeys do that. It is built in. Right? Have you seen monkeys carrying their children in the stomach? Till they grow up, they look after. So what the big deal? If I say, I am caring for the child of my neighbor, I have expanded. So therefore, great teachers, including Swami Vivekananda, said that serving others is a beautiful way also to purify your mind and find the inner self, because the inner self in you is also the inner self there. There is no difference. Not that if I eat, they will not be hungry. That's not what I'm saying. But at least when I eat, think of them. The ancient Shastras say that a householder's duty is in the morning after he has his bath and wash and so on and cooks his food. When the food is ready, he should go out to this gate and 3 times shout loudly, "Anybody hungry here?" If somebody says yes, first he has to feed him and then eat. This is the Vedic way of life. Well, if somebody says nobody is there, you can eat. So, you have to become less self-centered. That is the practical approach. Apart from chanting Om and thinking that one is really the inner self and so on, change your way of life. If you are the inner self, then don't take too much interest in this body. Not too much. You need to eat, you need to understood. Hmm? And the mind has to be tranquil. But our mind is never tranquil because we depend on outward circumstances to be happy. So it's a roller coaster ride. Sorrow is very much there in this world. You can't escape. You can face it, but you cannot escape it. So, can we come to a state of mind which remains tranquil in the midst of all circumstances? Normally it's not so. The Gita describes this very beautifully in the 12th chapter called Bhakti Yoga. Sarvatra samabuddhaya, sthita prajna. Sarvatra samabuddhaya means, can the mind be tranquil in the midst of circumstances? Or can we cultivate this quality in us? Normally, how is it? Tulya Ninda Stutir Moni, the great Munis, Rishis, for them Ninda and Stuti are the same. No problem. But that's not how we live. If somebody praises me and says, oh, this M must be somebody from outer space, then I am on cloud 9. If somebody says, I think he's a stupid idiot, then I am down. This is our life. Up, down. There is no sthita. What does it matter if somebody says you are an idiot? I mean, what does it really? Really, does it really matter? Suppose you called me a fool. Does it matter? Suppose I don't know English and you call me a fool. What happens? Nothing. And if I am from the Hindi heartland, I might think you are calling me a fool, flower, and be very elated. It's a question of words and how we have built in meaning into words. So can we remain tranquil in the midst of struggle? Even if you don't attain the Supreme Brahman inside, your life will become less agitated and more tranquil if you understand that please lead your life. Don't worry about what others say about you or public opinion. Take a lesson from the politicians. I'm not saying you should be like them, but so you can say what you want. A yogi also doesn't care what others think. He knows that deep down the inner self is all that matters. So, And this is why in the Yoga Sutras, Patanjali says, yoga is defined, yoga is chitta vritti nirodha. That means yoga is the uh, rubbing off of all the distractions of the mind. In that tranquil state, then you realize that the mind as you know it or I know it doesn't exist. What exists is the inner self. And that self we described yesterday as Satchidananda. It is the truth, and it is consciousness, and it is bliss. And it is in search of this that we do various acrobatics in this world, in the outside world, hoping to find it. But it is right here. I'm not going sloka by sloka. I'm picking up here and there. There is a beautiful simile which is called the simile of the chariot. The Kathopanishad says, Atmanam Rathinam Vidhi. Know the self as the lord of the chariot, the inner self as the lord of the chariot, and the body as the chariot. Intellect is the charioteer, and the mind are the reins of the horses. The reins. Reins or reins? What do you say? Reins. The senses, the indriyas, the panchendriyas, which bring us in contact with this world. Actually, we don't know nothing about this world except what the senses convey. We think we know, but we don't. We know only what the senses convey to us, and we decide, this is the world. Actually, how the world is, we don't know. I wanted to go into it, but I can't. There's no time. There's a complete understanding. Even ordinarily through logic, you can prove that this bottle that is sitting here is not what you think it is. Of course, you are thirsty or drink water, but uh, someday we can go into it. What we think of the world is what the image that is conveyed to us by our sense organs, indriyas. Now the indriyas or the senses are the horses in this chariot. And the objects to which the senses are attached are the roads, the pathways through which the chariot goes. It's a beautiful description. And who is the enjoyer? The inner self who is sitting in the chariot is the enjoyer. We think we are enjoying. Mind think it is enjoying. The senses think they are enjoying. The charioteer think he is going a beautiful ride. The horses think that they're, but it is the fellow sitting in the chariot who is enjoying this whole thing. That is the inner self. This is the description. Then from that example it comes to the next, which says, he who has no understanding, well, whose mind is uh, whose mind is always unrestrained. Yastava ajnanavan bhavati ayuktena manasa sada, means he who has no understanding, whose mind is always unrestrained, and his senses are out of control. Such senses are like wicked horses which don't listen to the charioteer. However, he who has understanding, whose mind is always restrained, and whose senses are under control, has good horses for the chariot. Then there is a description of from the senses this the lead towards the inner self, because we know only the senses and the world of the senses, and from there the trace to that which is inner. How? Beyond the senses are the objects of the senses. Senses cannot function without objects. So even they are more important than the senses. And beyond the objects is the mind that looks through the senses. For instance, I can keep my eyes open and look at you. But if my mind is in the Himalayas, even though your images fall into my eyes, there is no communication because my mind is in the Himalayas. So the mind is more important than the senses. It's the mind that sees, that witnesses, using the senses as the instruments of perception. Right? Okay. So now, beyond the mind is the understanding. And beyond the understanding is the great self. We have a beautiful prayer which people chant in the evening. It's called the Harinama Sankirtana in Kerala. In the north, people don't know the Hari. They know Hari, but they don't know the Harinama Sankirtana. The Harinama Sankirtana is supposed to be just a Sankirtana, but actually it's full of the truth of the Upanishads. My favorite one is Kannana Kanna Manamagum Kanna Adine Kanna Idunna Purul Anannariyumalavanandamend Hari Narayanaya Nama. So lastly is Hari Narayanaya Nama. But what it says is Kannana Kanna Manamagum Kanna. The eye of the eye is the eye of the mind. Eye of this eye is the mind. Manamagum. Adine Kanna Idunna Purul. If there is a witness to even the mind, and if I realize I am that, that means I am the witness happily enjoying everything. This is what the Upanishad is trying to say. Of course, it came much before Harinam Sankirtana, but therefore, to reach there, the wise should restrain their speech in the mind. You know how much you speak for no reason whatsoever. Talk. Look at me. 35 minutes I'm blabbering, talking. And you go out, people are talking. In fact, when I get tired, I run away somewhere. So, the wise man, meaning someone who is looking for the self, inner self, first restrains the speech. Not enough. I know people who have kept mauna for 1 month and after that they explode when they come out. Because why? Even though they have not been talking, the mind has been chattering and they're so fed up. So when they open up, they say, "Pettannu gate thorakku." That really, I'm not joking. So the self, Yanchadvan Manasi Prajnasta. The wise man should restrain the mind, the speech in the mind, dissolve the speech into the mind. The mind should then be dissolved in the understanding of the inner self and the inner self into the tranquil self which is its origin. So from noise to quietness. So silence is not the absence of sound. We think silence is the absence of sound. Silence is when the mind has become silent. If a silent mind can sit in the middle of Kanimara market with all his tumult and be tranquil. Hmm? So, if one does that, if one looks at these matters which we discussed, then the Upanishad says, Uttishta Jagrata Prapyavaran Nibodhata. Sorry. Surasya Dhara Nishitaha Duryatyaya Durgam Pathastat Kaviyo Vadanti. That means, arise, awake, don't sleep. Anybody sleeping here? Arise, awake. And having attained the boons that I have given you, Yama says to Nachiketas, understand them. Why? Because this path to the truth is like walking on the edge of a razor, so sharp. You can cut your heels, you can fall this way. Edge of a razor, no, how thin it is, just imagine. Surasya dhara, it's like the edge of a razor. So arise, awake, don't sleep. Take these boons which I have given you, walk on the edge of a razor and reach that path which the sages declare. Do you know, I don't know many people know this, and if you have read it, there's a beautiful novel written many years ago by Somerset Maugham. It's called The Razor's Edge. Before writing this novel, he spent quite some time in Tiruvannamalai watching Ramana Maharshi. The story is about a cab driver who is actually a sage. The inner self, without sound, without touch, without form, undecaying. Form is the big problem. If you're attached to form, when every day in the morning we brush our teeth, we look at the mirror, how is the form now? How many more wrinkles have been added? Is there grey hair in my eyebrows? How is the skin? Not only women, please, men. Men are vainer than women. They always carry a comb with their pockets. Not women. So, when there is this form, you want to keep it, protect it, look after it. You don't want it to change in any way. But forms change. Everything in this earth moves. The Upanishad beautifully says, Yatkincha jagatyam jagat. The word jagat, the universe, is derived from the word jagatyam. Yatkincha jagatyam jagat, which means that which moves, which changes. Everything changes, you cannot stop it. Well, for some time you can pay large amounts to plastic surgeons, but in the end it will end. Look at Elizabeth Taylor, finally. So, it changes. And we want it not to change. We want to hold it, freeze. But you can't freeze time. Time is always moving. You cannot freeze it. In fact, the very act of photography is an attempt to freeze time. We know that it is moving, but we don't freeze it. I have a lot of experience. Whenever I go, people, Batula. First of all, my mind is not frozen. That's a different story. But so, that self without sound, without touch, without form, undecaying. It doesn't decay. The fear is that it will decay, but it doesn't decay. Why? The inner self doesn't. The body does, of course. You can't keep it for 2 days. Everybody will start saying, let's hurry up. And in fact, every day when you go to sleep, it's a kind of short death. It's like a a rehearsal for the final death. Really. You know why? You can prove. In the morning you have to brush your teeth, otherwise you smell like a dead body. So, good thing. Um, but the inner self, which is in you and in me, is undecayable. It doesn't decay. Eternal. It's not here today and gone tomorrow. It doesn't have a smell. It doesn't have a beginning. Therefore, it doesn't have an end. Anything that has a beginning has an end. Discerning this fact of the inner self, O Nachiketas, you are free of the fear of the face of death because you are not going to die. In the Australian English dialect, every morning people see you and say, "It's good to die." They say, "Yeah, it is." And then the Upanishad says, "Whoso shall cause to be recited this supreme secret before an assembly of the devout, at the time of the ceremonies of the dead, they will prepare for him everlasting life, because he goes leaving the body knowing that everything is not ended. I am the immortal soul, I am not the body." So whenever somebody is dying, they recite it. No point, because the dying person doesn't know Sanskrit. So say it in a language which he understands or she understands. Tibetans have an entire system called the Bardo. When a person is about to die, people sit together and chant and say, "Don't worry, there is no death, the body is dying. You are living, going into the higher worlds. There are guides to take you up until you reach the final stage of nirvana." So that if you are there, you can see the perceptible change in the expression of the dying person. Suddenly there is no fear, there's peace. So, ya imam paramam guhyam, this is the secret. Shravayad Brahma Samshadi, to be chanted among the devout. Prayata Shraddha Kale Vatat Anantyaya Kalpate Tat Anandaya Kalpate. So, recite this when somebody is dying so that they know that they are the inner self and therefore free of the fear of death. This is the end of the last but one part of the Kathopanishad. Then, this is the last. So I can't do the whole thing, but I'm going to pick up what is important. Sorry, again I'm moving away. Good for my back, of course. Thinking which is best. The eternal Lord, the supreme reality, abides in the human self as the inner self, like a thumb. You know this, the Purusha Shukta of the Rig Veda. Sahasra Shirsha Purushaha Sahasrakshaha Sahasrapada Sabhruvim Vishvato Atyatishthita Dashangulam. It means that Supreme Purusha, the Supreme Reality, 1,000 hands and 1,000 eyes simply means eternal, many, unlimited, infinite, finally resides inside us, 10 fingers from your navel. Atyatishthita Dashangulam. Which means, for that eternal reality, you need to just touch what is inside us. Now here it says, Angushta matra purusho madhyatmani tishtati Ishano bhuta bhavyasya na tado vijugupsate etadvaya tat. That means the person, that supreme person, adopting the size of a thumb, resides in the middle of the inner being of the human. After knowing him, who is the Lord of the past, the present, and the future, one does not shrink from him, because that verily is that. This thumb like thing inside is actually that supreme reality. Tat Tomasi. Then there is a beautiful description, again metaphorical. Puram Yegadashadwaram. There is a city of 11 gates, Dwaraka. There is a city of 11 gates belonging to the one of purified intellect. By ruling it, one does not grieve, and being freed is indeed free, and that the resident of that city is indeed that supreme reality. And what is that city with the 11 gates? Sharire, the body, with all the 11 openings. But inside resides the master of it, which masters it through the mind, but is actually beyond the mind. When the mind is quiet, then the self is. Otherwise it is, but we don't see it. Then for the first time in the literature, Vedic literature, much earlier than the Yoga Sutras and Yogacara and so on, there is a description of the prana, upward prana and the downward prana. We won't go into that. That's a complete yogic text. But we can't miss this part where I don't prepare when I come for a talk. So, this is important to note. The 16th sloka of the last chapter, Shatam Chaika Cha Hridayasya Nadyastasam Murdhanam Abhinirishtaika Tayordhvam Ayan Amritatvam Yati Vishwam Anya Utkramani Bhavanti. 101 are the channels that come out of the heart, arteries and veins and so on, that come out of the heart. One of them goes up to the crown of the head. Going upward through that, one becomes immortal. Others serve for the body to perform various other functions. Now, here is a beautiful description of what we call Shushumna Nadi, the channel that goes from the Hridaya up to the Sahasrara. The Upanishad says, Yama says to Nachiketas, when you put all your energies and allow your mind to ascend that channel, the central channel that goes up to the head through the heart, then you touch that which is immortal, that resides in the inner self. Now this is a completely yogic description of the movement of energies through the Shushumna, by which the brain becomes fit enough and subtle enough and silent enough and tranquil enough to access the inner reality called the Brahman or the self. So he says to Nachiketas, Now I have given you not only theoretical understanding of the eternal truth by which you become immortal or you realize you're immortal. I'm also given you 2 or 3 practical ways of how to reach there. One is the Om, the other is to live in this world avoiding the pleasant and accepting the good. Fourth is to keep silent and go into your mind. Third is to allow your energies and thoughts to travel up to the crown of the head through the Hridaya. If you put all these together, Nachiketas, you're a free man. Now, after listening to all this, Mrityu Proktam Nachiketota Labdhva Vidyam Yetam Yoga Vidhim Chakritasnam Brahma Praptyo Virajo Abhuda Vimrutyur Anyopi Evam Yogi Adhyatma Eva. The Nachiketas then, having gained this knowledge, declared by the Lord of Death and the rule of what yoga is to be followed, attained the Brahman, the Supreme, and became free from passion and from death. And so may any other who knows this in regard to the self attain this freedom. So, the Upanishad is not confined to Nachiketas. It uses Nachiketas to speak of a truth which is for everybody and which is universal. Okay. Now for that, the Upanishads has described many things. One is, when you live in this world, choose the good more than the pleasant. One. Two, keep your mind tranquil in the midst of circumstances. Sarvatra samabuddha. As a practical exercise, chant Om. And when you chant Om, I'm putting 2 and 2 together. You chant Om, think that the inner self is inside, which cannot be thought of. And it's residing in the heart, like the chariot, or like the one who sits in the chariot. And with the chanting of Om, using Om as the arrow, and the mind as the string, shoot the arrow not there but straight up, so that it goes from the Hridaya to the Sahasrara. And then you're free, you understand actually, this is theory, you experience as Anubhava, that you are actually that immortal self which cannot be killed. Having said that, I must say that among all these things, the most difficult thing to tame and to take the mind into a tranquil state, which keeps us going more and more into the traps, is that thing called ahankara, the ego. Now, in Vedantic term, ahankara is different in Sankhya, but it is this ego that doesn't allow. For instance, I think first thing that occurs is, I know everything, so nothing more to learn, ego. 2, I know better than the other person. And I am responsible for everything. The whole world is because of me. Actually, we think so. We sometimes tend to think so. So I'm going to end this with a little story told to me by a Swamiji in a Jangama Mat, in a Lingayat Matha. When we did our Padayatra from Kanyakumari to Kashmir, took us more than a year, 1 year and 4 months. It was fun. On the way in Karnataka, we were all given food and accommodation by the Lingayat Mathas. And there was one senior Swamiji called Shivacharya Swami. Everybody who was on the yatra remembers him because in the night he sent an assistant to measure the feet of all the walkers, and morning they produce new shoes. So since we were walking and I was tired, so our Padyatris were keeping on cribbing, saying there is no Satsang, you're not talking, there is no spiritual discussion. So I said, okay, let's have it here in the Mata, there is a nice hall. So I went and sat there on a chair. I couldn't even sit with my legs bent because there was some pain in the knee. And I was about to start the satsang when the Swamiji came. He was much senior to me, in the sense he's quite an old man. So he came. And he said, I want to listen to the satsang. I got a little worried. I said, oh, Swamiji, you don't have, no, I have to attend the satsang. I said, okay. So he got another chair and he sat down. He listened quietly to the satsang without uttering a single word. After the satsang was over, I asked him, Swamiji, do you want to say something? He said, yeah, I want to tell them a story. He said, okay. So he said a beautiful story. I quote it very often. It is so to the point. Of course, it's a story. Apparently, there was a great sculptor. Sculptor എന്താ പറയുന്നത്? Shilpi. There was a great Shilpi who was summoned by a temple priest to make a vigraha, new image. So he went there. Now the temple priest also was somebody who's supposed to know about future and astrology, whatever. So he told him, hey, you're going to die in 3 months. So this guy said, what is this? You are the agent of God and so forth. So if you simply say, I'm going to die, find a solution for me. He said, the solution is very simple actually. You're a great sculptor. You're so excellent in your work. So go back to your workshop, there is still 3 months. Make 2 or 3 more images exactly like you. Okay? And go and stand there when death comes. You know, Yama sends his dutas to bring the soul. And he said that these dutas are usually stupid. They travel on buffaloes and so on. So you can imagine their standard. So when they come to take the soul, you go and stand near the images that you have made of yourself. Exactly as they are, in the same posture. These idiots won't know which is real and which is duplicate. So they'll check. If they are not able to find it till that muhurta, when you have to go, then they'll go back. They can't take you. Do this act. So he said, okay. So he agreed, he went and stood. 3 months he worked very hard and made 2-3 images just like him and stood in the middle. The Yamadutas came and they looked around. They said, no, this is confusing. Which is the real thing? They went back. They went to Yama and said, sir, no way out. This fellow has done this trick and we can't find out what is duplicate and what is real. So Yama said, look, I always knew you're idiots, but it doesn't matter. Because 3 months, again after 3 months, his death is coming. So you go. He said, but he'll do the same thing. He said, yeah, before going, you come to me, I'll utter a secret mantra in your ears. Go with that. You will find him. I said, okay. So then after 3 months, the priest again warned him that death is coming. So he did the same. Now he didn't have to make, he had already. So he went and stood in the middle. So the Yamadutas came. Before going, they went to the chief, who whispered into their ears something. And what he said was, you cannot find what is real and what is unreal. Just go there and praise him. That's all you need to do. So the Yamadutas came and said, it's so wonderful. Can't make out which is duplicate. The skin looks so real. The hair is so much like human hair. The eyes, they look so alike. And if you go near the nose of all them, you almost feel like they are breathing. What a wonderful thing. For 5 minutes he kept quiet. He couldn't bear it anymore. He said, I made it. So they knew which is the real. So they said, come, let's go. Wow. So that is the thing. If you have, you cannot beat death. If you don't, you can beat it. Well, sometimes you have to pretend to have an ego, otherwise people will think you are an idiot and run above you. But deep down in your mind, keep free. Because nobody knows everything about everything. I may know something, Upanishad. You may know technology. You may know about law. There's a judge sitting here. When I go before him, I'll say, Your Honor, because he knows. I don't know. So, when you understand this, you will feel that you're not so big after all. And when you really understand that you're not big at all, then you become the biggest. Then you realize the inner self, which is all pervading and which is the most important thing on this earth, in this universe, about which the Vedas say Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamaduchyate Purnasya Purnamataya Purnameva Vasishit, that Purna. Thank you. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. I'm very sorry. There's no question answer. We'll do it some other time. Thank you.